Hello everyone, I'm Teacher Ayan and welcome back for another video tutorial in Math 9. For today's video, I'm going to show you how to prove different kinds of special quadrilaterals and their properties. Before we start in discussing the learning activity 1 to 3, so allow me first to discuss the definition and some properties of the following: the Midline Theorem, Trapezoid, Isosceles Trapezoid, and Kite. So it will be easy for us to answer all the learning activity. Okay, simulan natin sa Midline Theorem. By definition, Midline Theorem is the segment that joins the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. Let us recall that midpoint is the middle point of a line segment. So for example, in this triangle, let's say you choose this side of the triangle and its midpoint is located somewhere here. And let's say you choose this side and its midpoint is located here. Now, if we are going to connect these two midpoints, we will have this segment. And this segment is the midline of this triangle. And as you can see in the definition of the Midline Theorem, midline or mid-segment is parallel to the third side of the triangle. This two arrowhead indicates that this segment is parallel to the third side of this triangle. And also, this mid-segment is half the measure of the third side of this triangle. So meaning, ang sukat nitong mid-segment na to ay katumbas ng kalahati ng sukat ng third side of the triangle. So for example, if this is 4, okay, so itong third side ng triangle ay 8. Based dito sa definition ng Midline Theorem natin. Okay, so how does it happen? So I will show you the basis of the definition of this Midline Theorem. I want you to observe what will happen to this midline as I play the animation. Okay, so are you ready? Okay, so let's begin. So what are our observations? First, if a triangle is cut along its midline, that triangle can be transformed into a parallelogram. Second, this midline is parallel to the third side of the triangle. At yun ang sinasabi dito sa definition ng Midline Theorem. Third, yung sinasabi ko kanina that this midline is 1/2 the measure of the third side of the triangle. Next, let's have trapezoid. So let's recall the definition of a trapezoid. It is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. So example of a trapezoid, so we have here trapezoid LIKE. And as you can see, meron itong dalawang arrowhead. And that indicates that these two sides are parallel to each other. Sa trapezoid, ang mga parallel side at mga non-parallel sides ay merong mga specific na pangalan. And these two sides, the parallel sides, are called the bases. And in this figure, we have the base LI and EK. On the other hand, yung LE at saka yung IK ay mga non-parallel sides or legs. In this figure, we have leg LE and leg IK. Another term aside sa bases at legs, meron tayong tinatawag na pairs of base angles. So we have two pairs of base angles. So in this figure, we have angle E and angle K, angle L, and angle I. So another term aside sa mga bases, legs, and base angle of a trapezoid, another term na dapat ay familiar rin tayo ay yung mid-segment of trapezoid or median of a trapezoid. So let's have this figure trapezoid LIKA. The median of a trapezoid is parallel to each base. So ito ang median o mid-segment na kung saan ay parallel siya sa base. So ito yung base natin. Kaya itong segment LA at segment EA ay congruent at itong segment IS is congruent to segment KS. Okay, so in this figure, AS is the median of trapezoid LIKA. And in the definition of the mid-segment theorem of a trapezoid, the length of this median or mid-segment is half the sum of the length of the bases. So for example, ito ay 4, tapos itong isang base niya naman ay 8. To know the length of median AS, ito yung magiging formula niya. So, AS is equal to yung sum ng LI at saka yung EK divided by 2. Okay, so in this example, meron tayo, ang sukat ng LI ay 4, ang EK ay 8, and then divided by 2, so we have 12 divided by 2, AS is equals to 6. So, therefore, ang median natin ay 6.
Okay, so ito ay pwede ninyong i-apply sa lahat ng uri ng trapezoid.
Okay, next we have this what we call isosceles trapezoid. Kailan magiging isosceles ang isang trapezoid? So, ito yung definition niya. If the legs of a trapezoid are congruent, then the trapezoid is isosceles. Ito yung kaninang ordinary na trapezoid na kung saan yung kanyang non-parallel sides ay hindi congruent. So, kung makikita ninyo, ito mas maikse, ito mas mahaba. So, ngayon, kung itong LE at itong IK ay magiging congruent, katulad niyan, so ibig sabihin, itong figure na to, since congruent na yung kanyang legs or yung non-parallel sides, this figure is an isosceles trapezoid. Now, let's talk about the properties of an isosceles trapezoid. So, first property of an isosceles trapezoid, we have the base angles of an isosceles trapezoids are congruent. Here, in this figure, the base angles of this isosceles trapezoid are angle L and angle I, angle E, and angle K. In notation, we have angle L is congruent to angle I and angle E is congruent to angle K. Second property of isosceles trapezoid is opposite angles of an isosceles trapezoid are supplementary. So, alin ba dito ang mga opposite angles niya? Okay, so we have angle L plus angle K is equals to 180 degrees. Kasi nga, sabi dito, opposite angles are supplementary. So, itong angle L at saka angle K, and total nila is 180 degree based dito sa property ng isosceles trapezoid natin. And another, we have angle I plus angle E is equals to 180 degrees din. Okay, so pansinin natin na itong angle K, this one, itong angle K at saka angle E, pwedeng magpalitan yan. At ito ring angle L at saka angle I, pwede rin yan magpalitan. So, ibig sabihin, itong angle L plus angle E, dito sa figure natin, kahit hindi sila opposite angles, okay, ay supplementary pa rin sila. Kapag inad natin yung angles nila, supplementary pa rin sila. The third property is the diagonal of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So, let's use the same figure. So, itong diagonal na to, LK, ay congruent daw siya sa diagonal IA. Okay, so in notation, we have segment LK is congruent to segment EA. Now, let's answer learning activity number 1. Directions, complete the two-column proof. So it says here, opposite angles of an isosceles trapezoid are supplementary. Okay, so here we have given isosceles trapezoid. Ito yun. Trapezoid ARTS with RT is parallel to AS. Ang kailangan nating i-prove dito ay angle ART and angle S are supplementary, and also si angle A at saka si angle T are supplementary. So, yun yung kailangan nating i-prove dito sa activity number 1 natin. Okay, so let's start. Sa statement number 1 natin, ang nakalagay dito sa reason ay given. So, ano ba ang given natin dito? Okay, so ito yung given natin. Yan. So, ibig sabihin, ito ay kukopyahin lang natin at ilalagay natin siya dito sa column ng statement. Next statement number 2 natin, yung segment AR is congruent to segment ST. So, alin yan dito sa figure natin? So, itong segment AR daw, tsaka si segment ST is congruent. So, ano yung reason natin dito? It's because of the definition of isosceles trapezoid. So, yun ang ilalagay natin dito sa reason. Bakit? So, kung babalikan natin yung definition ng isosceles trapezoid natin kanina, na itong legs ng trapezoid natin, as you can see, they are congruent. So, yun yung nakastate natin dito sa definition ng isosceles trapezoid. So, kung kaya, ganun din dito. So, itong segment na to are congruent. So, that is by definition of isosceles trapezoid. Okay, next, we have statement number 3. So, yan. So, may correction lang tayo dito kasi nakalagay dito ay yung angle ARTS, this one, ART is congruent daw to angle S. So, as you can see, yung relationship ni angle R at ni angle S ay opposite angle. So, they are not congruent, they are supplementary. So, correctionan lang natin to. Error lang yan. Okay, so ang reason natin dito, the base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. Okay, so alin ba dito ang base angle ng trapezoid? So, kung balikan natin yung property ng isosceles trapezoid, so ito yung kaninang diniscuss natin, the base angle of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So, alin ba dito yung mga base angle niya? So, ito yon yung angle L at saka angle I, tapos itong angle E at saka itong angle K. So, dito sa ating figure, so alin ba dito yung mga base angle ng isosceles trapezoid? So, we have angle R and angle T. angle A and angle S. So, ibig sabihin, yun lang ang ilalagay natin dito sa statement kasi the base angle of an isosceles trapezoid daw are congruent. So, yan lang ang ilalagay natin. Let's have number 4. So, angle A plus angle ART is equals to 180 and angle S plus angle T is equals to 180 degrees. Okay, so kung mapapansin ninyo dito sa figure natin, ito si angle A at si angle R, same side sila. At ang theorem na iyon ay same side interior angle theorem. So, wala tayong problema sa number 4 dahil pareho silang may sagot. Sa number 5, we have angle A, so this one, plus angle T is equals to 180 degrees and angle S plus angle ART, which is yung angle R, is equals to 180. So, ano bang relationship ni angle A at saka ni angle T at saka ni angle R at saka ni angle S? Okay, so di ba mga opposite angles sila? At sabi sa opposite angles of an isosceles trapezoid, so dito sa second property of isosceles trapezoid natin, ang sabi dyan na yung opposite angles of an isosceles trapezoid are supplementary. So, ibig sabihin, since opposite angles yung mga nasa statement natin, so ang reason natin dito ay, in an isosceles trapezoid, opposite angles are supplementary. Okay? And then next, we have number 6. So, ang reason dito sa number 6, definition of supplementary angles. So, anong ilalagay natin dito sa statement? So, parang katulad lang din siya dito. Ang ilalagay natin ay si angle A and angle T are supplementary and angle S and angle ART are supplementary. So, okay, next. Let's have activity number 2. So, dito sa learning activity number 2, diagonals of an isosceles trapezoids are congruent. So, kung maalala ninyo, ito naman yung pangatlong property ng isosceles trapezoid na diniscuss natin kani-kanina lang. Okay, so given, we have here isosceles trapezoid ROMA with diagonals RM and diagonal AO or OA. Okay, so ipo-prove natin daw na si RM, itong diagonal na to, ay congruent kay diagonal AO. Number 1 statement natin, isosceles trapezoid ROMA with diagonals RM and AO. So, reason natin dito ay given. Okay, kasi yun ang nakalagay dito sa given natin. Yan. Number 2. So, ang number 2 natin, ang reason ay definition of isosceles trapezoid. So, mabalikan natin kanina yung definition ng isosceles trapezoid. Legs of a trapezoid are congruent. So, itong legs daw ay congruent. Okay, so dito sa ating illustration, alin dito ang mga legs ng isosceles trapezoid na congruent? Okay, so itong RO at saka AM are congruent. So, yan ang ilalagay natin dito sa statement number 2. Kasi definition of isosceles trapezoid. A, nasa statement number 3 na tayo. Dahil doon si angle ORA at saka itong angle MAR are congruent. Okay, so ano bang relationship nilang dalawa? Okay, so silang dalawa ay mga base angles. So going back sa properties ng isosceles trapezoid, it says that their base angles are congruent. So therefore, ang reason natin dito sa number 3, the base angle of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So next, number 4, yung side RA is congruent to side AR. So ano kaya ang reason nito? So ano bang mapapansin niyo dito? Itong segment na to ay equal lang sa sarili niya. So ibig sabihin, ang property na ito ay reflexive property of congruence. Kasi kung ano yung nandito, ay equal din siya sa sarili niya. Okay, so number 5, SAS postulate or yung side angle side. So ito ay sa triangle. Okay, so ano ba ang mga congruent dito? Ang side OR, so itong side OR ay congruent sa side MA. Okay, so this side and this sides are congruent. Tapos itong angle ORA, so ito yung kanina, itong angle na to at saka yung angle na to, yung MAR, are congruent. At itong side RA ay congruent sa side AR, dun sa sarili niya by reflexive property of congruence. Kaya itong triangle ORA is congruent to triangle MAR. So kasi kapag plinif natin to, ipiflip natin tong triangle na to, ito ay congruent dito sa triangle natin na nauna kanina by side angle side postulate. Okay, so yan yung ilalagay natin. Huwag kakalimutan kapag dating sa mga SAS postulate, SSS postulate, triangle ang tinutukoy doon. So huwag kakalimutan na ilagay yung triangle dito sa unahan. Number 6 naman, we can say that diagonal RM, ito. Diagonal RM is congruent to diagonal AO. By CP, CTC, or corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Dahil napatunayan natin kanina, dalawang triangle na ito ay congruent. So, ibig sabihin, yung kanyang mga corresponding parts din ay congruent, which is yung RM at saka yung AO. Okay, next. Before we proceed to learning activity number 3, let us first discuss the definition and properties of a kite. Okay, so kite is a quadrilateral with two pairs of adjacent sides that are congruent. So, ang example ng kite ay ito. So, kite, K-I-T-E. When we say adjacent sides, parang consecutive din yan o magkasunod na sides. So, palagay ninyo, alin sa mga sides dito ang dalawang pairs na congruent ang sides. Okay, so napaka-obvious na yung side EK ay congruent kay side IK. Tapos, si side ET ay congruent naman kay side IT. So, in notation, we have EK is congruent to IK, ET is congruent to IT. Here are the properties of a kite. So, first, the diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. So, in this figure, ito yung diagonals nila. Okay, so we have diagonal KT and diagonal EI. So, in notation, we have KT is perpendicular to EI. Now, ang intersection ng KT at saka ni EI, let's name it point O. Okay, so here, as you can see, the longer diagonal, which is yung KT, is perpendicular bisector of the shorter diagonal. So, ang ibig sabihin, si KT, bukod sa perpendicular siya kay EI, hahatiin rin niya si EI into congruent parts. So, in other words, si EO ay congruent kay I2. So, next. The longer diagonal, this one, bisect opposite angles, meaning, itong dalawang angle na to, this one, at saka ito, yung angle AKT at saka itong angle IKT are congruent in measure. And also, itong dalawang angle sa baba are congruent. Another property of a kite is that the area of a kite is half the product of its diagonal. Ibig sabihin, kung alam mo ang sukat ng mga diagonals ng kite, madali mo na rin masasabi kung ano ang area ng kite. Dahil ito yung formula niya. So, to find the area of a kite, all you have to do is to get the product of the diagonal, of the two diagonals. Tapos, yung product nila, i-divide mo lang siya by 2. So, yun na yung area. Halimbawa, ang measure ng kite ng longer diagonal na to ay 8. Tapos, ito ay 4. So, 8 times 4 is equals to 32 divided by 2. Yun ang area ng kite. Okay? So, let us continue and let's proceed to learning activity number 3. So, ito na yung last activity natin for this video. Complete the two-column proof. A diagonal of a kite is an angle bisector of a pair of opposite angles. So, given, we have here kite WORD with diagonals OD and WR. So, ang kailangan natin i-prove na natin na si WR is an angle bisector of angle OWD and angle ORD. Okay, so number 1, for kite WORD with diagonals OD and WR, sorry. So, ito ay given. Bakit? Dahil yan yung nakalagay dito sa given natin. Okay? And then number 2, statement natin. So, we have WO. So, alin yan dito sa figure natin. So, itong WO at si WD here. And side RO and side RD. Yan, are congruent. Okay, so as you can see, two pairs of adjacent sides are congruent. At kung babalikan natin kanina sa definition ng kite natin, quadrilateral with two pairs of adjacent sides are congruent. So, ibig sabihin, yung reason natin dyan ay because of the definition of a kite. Two pairs of adjacent sides are congruent. Number 3, itong WR is congruent to WR. So, as you can notice, congruent siya sa sarili niya. Katulad kanina sa mga nauna nating activity, kapag congruent siya sa sarili niya, ibig sabihin ang property na yun ay reflexive property of congruence. So, wala tayong problema sa number 3 dahil nandyan na yung sagot nila. Okay, number 4, since nasabi natin na ang WO ay congruent kay WD, tapos si side RO ay congruent kay side RD, at ang WR ay congruent kay WR or sa sarili niya, so, by SSS postulate, so itong dalawang triangle na ito, yung triangle WDR, so ito yon WDR, okay, ay congruent kay WOR, okay, by SSS postulate. Okay, number 5, sabi natin na yung triangle na to ay congruent sa triangle dito. Ibig sabihin, yung angle OWR at saka yung angle DWR is congruent by CPCTC, or corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Kasi nga, dahil napatunayan nga natin kanina, yun na yung dalawang triangle na ito ay congruent. Ibig sabihin, ang mga parts na corresponding sa kanila, katulad ng angles, ay congruent din. Okay, kapag magpo-prove tayo, kinakailangan natin isa-isahin ang mga parts na pre-prove natin. So, patulad dito. Okay, so this ends my presentation. Kung nakatulong sa iyo ito, please like and share. Thank you.